The Twilight Zone is an anthology series created by Ron Sterling. It had stories where its characters would get involved in something weird or disturbing. The original series lasted from 1959 to 1964. Even today, 60 years later, the show is still being quoted and parodied. There are people who don't like black and white shows and might even give The Twilight Zone a pass. It's a great show, and I made a video on my top original series episodes. Of course, there have been remakes over the years. There's the recent series that just appeared last year. I heard it's okay, but it's a little too political at times. And since we live in very political times, a lot of people just want to escape politics, and this might throw them off. There's also the 2002 series, which I think faded away pretty quickly. I think the most famous episode is probably the doll one, but I don't know. But, of course, then there's the 80s series. I remember watching this on TV years ago, and I thought it was good. While it's not up to the standards of the original, I do think it did an alright job of being faithful to the original. Most fans seem to look the series over or even forget it exists. One really cool thing is actually the intro. Just look at it. It starts out with this really cool outside look, well then it goes into this creepy looking house. After that, the windows close and then we get this crystal ball that just goes and appears. We then get a fetus inside it, a big giant tarantula, this carousel horse that just loops around, a doll, an owl, and then a nuclear explosion. After that, we kind of get the regular Twilight Zone theme, and then a ghostly image of Rod Sterling, and then the title shows up. It's really cool looking, and I think it's even better than the regular theme from the original. So I'm here to go and acknowledge its worth, and I'm going to go over all 13 of my favorite episodes of the series. Now, I do have to acknowledge, I haven't seen every episode. I don't have a DVD of it, and episodes online don't have the best quality at times, but still. But for the episodes I have seen, I'll give you the best ones I've seen. So, here are the top 13 best 80s Twilight Zone episodes. Number 13. Dead Woman's Shoes. Here, a woman finds a pair of shoes at her job belonging to a woman who died and her husband was getting rid of her things. Upon putting them on, her personality changes to that of the woman who died. Before, she's shy and lets people step all over her. After, she puts them on and she's rude and demanding. We find out the shoes are not possessed and the woman who wants to go and finish some unfinished business. This episode takes the phase into another person's shoes quite seriously. It's kind of funny to see a main character go into place and be surprised how she got there when she takes the shoes off. I think we have seen this before, but it's not overdone. It is kind of annoying how a bit of the episode focuses on her feet, but it does go with the story, but still, if you don't care for foot fetishes, it can be annoying. Want to know her reason for coming back? Watch it to find out. Number 12. The Last Defender of Camelot. It's rare to see something like fantasy in the Twilight Zone. This series is for science fiction and horror, so seeing fantasy is quite different. Here, the last of King Arthur's men, Lancelot, is still alive and kicking. When a group of punks try to take him and he defeats them, he has one of the punks take him to the person who sent them. He finds out Morgana Le Fay is still alive and wants to warn him about Merlin, who wants to take over the world. He trusts Merlin, so he takes the punk to go and get him. They get to Merlin, and Lancelot thinks Morgana might be right, so it's up to him to go and become a knight again. As I said before, it's interesting to see a fantasy show in here. I never thought I would see Merlin in here. The performances are pretty good, but not so much the efforts. Go anime videos have better efforts than this.
No, I will not. Instead, how would you like to get beat up? Oh wait, I forgot. You don't have a choice.
Hello?
Still, if you're looking for something that the Twilight Zone usually never touches, I think you'll enjoy this. Number 11, Little Boy Lost. This episode is a remake from the original series, though it plays out quite differently, so in a way it's not a remake in its own thing. A photographer woman wants to follow her dreams and go around the world taking pictures, but then she meets a young boy. He asks him his name and he tells her to guess it, to which she says it's Kenny, and he says that's right. He tells her to continue her relationship with her boyfriend, which she finds weird. Things get even weirder when he shows up out of nowhere and disappears. Like I said, it's actually quite different from the original. The original is about a girl getting trapped in another dimension and her parents trying to save her. This one is kind of the opposite. It's about a boy crossing dimensions to meet his mom. So it's weird to say it's a remake when it's really not. It's more of an adaption. I can kinda understand the woman's decision, sorta, and I'm not gonna say how it ends, but let's just say South Park says it best.
Oh my god, she killed Kenny! You bastard!
Number 10, The Card. Here, a mother decides to get a new credit card. She gets a card called The Card, which she thinks will solve all her problems. She goes around using it like some unresponsible teen, and it's been in shows before, and goes over her limit and soon has to pay up. However, she soon realizes the fees are much more heavy here. Her possessions start to disappear and other things she likes as well. I always like to get my payment out as early as possible. It seems this lady doesn't think the same. Just the thought of losing all your things or more is quite scary. This lady is too stupid to realize that and just keeps using it. If only she used the back credit card. By now, pay later indeed. Number 9, Dealer's Choice. Here, a group of friends are having a card game. One of them is actually coming for a friend, and they don't really know him well. Well, it turns out that this man is actually the devil, and he's come for one of their souls. Which one? Well, they'll play for it. Whoever loses will have to go with him. The men think it's unfair just to come and claim him like that, and think they've done nothing bad enough to go to hell. So the bet for their lives is on as they play the game. I think all the performances are pretty good, as well as Morgan Freeman. Yes, he is here. I was hoping he would reveal he's God and take the devil out. I also wondered if this man was really the devil like he claimed. You like all these guys well enough that you don't want any of them to lose. When it's revealed who loses, you hope there's a way out for him. But who said the devil plays fair? If you were to gamble with any episodes, this would be a good one. Number 8, To See the Invisible Man. Here, a man named Mitchell has no heart. He's mean and cold to everyone. As punishment, he gets his dot on his forehead to let everyone know he's invisible. They can still see, hear, and feel him, but they have to pretend he's invisible, or they too will be punished. There are these drones everywhere that fly to see if everyone is obeying the law. They hope that being isolated will lead them to be a better person. At first, Mitchell laughs it off and sees it as a way to get away with crimes, even going into the ladies' locker room. But soon, being isolated gets to him and he has to be noticed. Even antisocial people need communication. If you were to be cast away completely, it would make anyone go insane. And to make someone invisible seems like a punishment that can work in this world. And other than this punishment, it seems like a normal society. For anyone who hates being social, maybe this should be a warning. Number 7, A Small Talent for War. A group of aliens visit Earth and they are the ones who created humanity. It turns out humanity has disappointed them because of their cruel techniques for war. They plan to destroy humanity unless they can improve on their war issues. So all the countries come together to make world peace once and for all. I like the alien guy's design. He's kind of tall and this pale guy, and he's kind of what you expect to be this higher being. I wonder if aliens did come to Earth, would we come together? Or would it be, say, our country would be the heroes who saved Earth, and then destroy ourselves? A lot of alien movies do seem to think we'll come together. It's funny to see all of them doing this. Heck, now Republicans and Democrats can't even agree on which ice cream they like best without fighting. I always like the way it ends. I honestly didn't expect it. Let's just say maybe the alien wasn't exactly clear on what he said. Number 6. The Toys of Caliban. Here, a young man named Toby with special needs lives with his parents. Though mentally handicapped, he has another thing special about him. He can bring pictures to life. He can look at a picture of an object, such as a donut, and make it appear before him and even eat it. Though this power comes with a price. He can't make anything living come through. Anything that is alive and comes through will come back dead. Because of that, he can't look at pictures or living things on TV. His power seems to be getting stronger, and he can even make things appear without looking at a picture. The parents attract a social worker who thinks they might be abusing their child. From there, things get even worse. This is an interesting concept. Having a disabled person with a special power like this can come up with a lot of interesting ideas. You feel the pain that the parents go through, not knowing what to do with someone like Toby. It's dark, interesting, and sad. This episode is worth 1,000 words. Number 5. Shelter Smelter. A crazy dad who thinks a nuclear war is going to happen puts all the time into his shelter. So much so that he has prepared his son for it, but doesn't even seem to care for his wife or daughter. While the kids are visiting a family, a bomb seems to go off and leaving him and his best friend in the shelter. From there, they have to wait for things to clear up, but cabin fever might get to them first. In the 80s, the Cold War was still going, and I guess some thought a nuclear war was still possible. The thought of being trapped in a shelter and knowing everyone you ever knew is probably dead is just devastating. Once you go out there, it would be a much different world. The father is very crazy. He even lets his young son hold and shoot a gun. Being trapped in a shelter with him would be a nightmare. Today, with the Soviet Union gone and the war over, the nuclear fallout thing might be kind of out of style for some people, but it has stuck around for others. COVID might have quarantined some people, but at least it's nothing like this episode. Number 4. A Road Less Traveled. Here, a husband and father is guilty about ditching on the Vietnam War. He seems to have a good life with his wife and daughter, though. Despite ditching on the war, he starts to have flashbacks of it. His daughter also claims that she sees a man in her room. Eventually, we do see the man and find out he's from an alternate reality where he went to the war and lost his legs, but never married his wife and had his kid. The two discuss their different lives and how they envy the other. I'm a sucker for alternate history stories, and this is a good one. I like the way these two interact with each other. They claim the other one took the better path and envy each other. While the Vietnam version is a war hero, he doesn't have his family or legs. And then when the family man feels guilty on ditching the war, not knowing he would have possibly saved some men. I also like it when they share their memories. That way they don't have to feel guilty or envious anymore. We all wonder what it would be like if we took the other path once in a while, and this is no exception. If you like alternate reality stories, I would highly suggest this. Number 3. A Message from Charity. In this episode, a teen boy named Peter from 1985 and a teen girl from 1600 named Charity are sick and find out they can feel, see, and taste each other's feelings. After they recover, they soon start to bond a friendship. This is good for Peter, who skipped 2 grades and never had a real friend, while Charity isn't exactly Miss Popular either. Peter shows her the wonders of the world like airplanes, the American Revolution, and some new foods. Charity starts to blab over her knowledge of the future to a friend who tells everyone and is thought to be a witch. Peter now has to save her before she is killed. They find out the judge also might have some dark secrets of his own due to Peter's history book. This is a very creative episode. You have two characters from two different periods talking to each other and becoming friends. You like the friendship between them, and heck, even think they can make a cute couple. Like Peter, you want to tell the person how the world has changed, but then you facepalm when you realize you're branded her as a witch. It's a nice little episode between two unlikely friends, and it has a nice ending. Number 2, A Little Peace and Quiet. Here, a mother with her loud family just wants time to herself once in a while. Her kids are always yelling, noisy, and her pets are always noisy, and her husband's always complaining. While gardening, she finds a pendant and finds out that time stops whenever she says, "Shut up." She uses it to make her family quiet, skip a line at the grocery store, and still pay. That's nice of her. And play a prank on some protesters. Give me that pendant! However, the best part is the ending. I won't give it up, but it's a really good one, and a creepy one. It makes you think about what you would do in her position. We all want to stop time and take advantage of it. The mother here learns it the hard way. This episode is a remake of the stopwatch from the original. The mother here is less of a jerk than the other guy is from the original, though, and I wonder if she deserved to get punished like he did. He stole and took advantage of people. And while she did take advantage of people, it wasn't particularly in a too mean way. This is an episode I can watch time and time again. It is the bomb. Before we get to number 1, let's look at some honorable mentions. Night of the Meek. This is pretty much the same as the original. I like the original a lot, and so putting on here made a lot of sense. I do like the ending where the manager just smiles, though. No words, just smiling. That's all that was needed. Her Pilgrim Soul. Here, two scientists make a machine that somehow turns into a fetus, then to a baby, a young girl, and then a woman, who says she's from the 1920s. One of the scientists starts to fall in love with her, and they wonder if she is a real soul or not. This episode is more of a love story. There's nothing really creepy about it, but it's a very sweet episode that has a nice ending. Examination Day. Sometime in the future, all kids at the age of 12 have to take an intelligence test. They need to pass it, and if they don't, they are executed. So one boy's life literally depends on whether he passes it or not. This episode is kind of like that Jake Paul movie. You know, that the guy who was in that Japanese suicide video. This episode shows a dystopia being average isn't so bad. Dreams for Sale. A woman is spending a nice day with her husband and daughters. However, she starts experiencing deja vu. This episode is kind of like a short version of The Matrix. If you like that movie, you might like this. Misfortune Cookie. A food critic likes to go to restaurants and get free food and proceed to give them a bad review. After a critic that's more popular than him gives a Chinese restaurant a good review, he decides to go and get revenge by giving them a bad review. Let's just say, you shouldn't bite the hand that feeds you. And number 1, Profile in Silver. A historian from the future named Joseph Fitzgerald is sent to 1963 to get more information on his ancestor, John F. Kennedy. A woman from his time warns him to be careful and not to reveal himself as he carries around a 1964 Kennedy coin. While filming him in Dallas, he decides to save the president from getting shot. At first, he's branded a hero, and it looks like things are going to get better. But soon, it looks like World War III is going to start when some tension starts. Fitzgerald finds out that every outcome will lead to the end of the world. So our hero has to somehow make things right again, even if that means revealing his secret to Kennedy. After Kennedy and his agent see the coin, he has no choice. I think we've seen stories where the main character has to save a lead from being shot before. They do it well here. All of the characters play their parts well, and you really get into the plot. When things get worse, you want them to succeed and make things better. I like time travel stories as well. Some of the better original Twilight Zone episodes involve time travel, as well as The Outer Limits. While Fitzgerald does make some mistakes, he wants to fix them and soon knows what he has to do to save humanity. While the guy who plays Kenny doesn't really look like him, I think, he does sound like him. This episode is great and gives us much more promise than our divided country does now. It's a well-written episode that any history fan will love. As Kenny has said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Men of courage. Men who do more than that for which they are called upon. You will not always know their names, but let their deeds stand as monuments, so that when the human race is called to judgment, we may say, this too was humanity.
Well folks, there we have it. I always thought this series was underappreciated. The 80s series had plenty of great moments, just like the original. While I don't think it's up there with the original, I do think it deserves more attention than it gets. It can be spooky, whimsical, weird, and just as entertaining to watch, and probably even darker than the original. I do hope some of you might consider giving this show a chance. It's at least better than the 2002 version. And to all those watching, have a happy Halloween in the Twilight Zone.